Welcome to the NFP podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appledorn each week. Together, we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week, we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP podcast.
Right.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi.
We are going to kind of continue our conversation. Well, we've been talking already for about 20 minutes, but we're going to actually start a more focused conversation, following up with our last convo, talking about, what were we talking about, Emily?
We were just talking about how NFP is hard. There's lots
of
reasons
doing hard things.
Yeah.
Yes, and NFP is hard. Yeah. Yep. So we're just going to continue the hard conversation because that's always fun.
Yeah,
so
right.
Do you want to continue, Emily?
Well, I just remember after we closed last time, I remember thinking like, I had so many other thoughts in particular about some of the things we were talking about. And so I'm glad we're doing this. So thinking about some of the ways that it was hard for us and what I would have done differently. This is what I didn't talk about, was I just kind of, forgot about, what would I have done differently? And what I always tell women and couples is, if you learn a method and it doesn't feel like this is working for you, it doesn't feel like you're able to interpret things, or you're having a hard time with the observations, or you just don't feel comfortable in the method. There are so many method options out there that my suggestion to anyone, and what I wish I would have done myself, is just keep seeking and searching and ask around if you want to. But there are so many options for tracking our fertility and with different biomarkers, right? And that is the biggest thing I wish I would have done, because what I didn't know, I didn't have all the knowledge that I have now. And if I would have kept going, gosh, I would have more things would have unfolded like an onion, right? Like I would have just kept peeling back the layers. I think that would have led us to theology of the body a lot sooner. I think a lot of things would have been different if I would have kept seeking and searching for something that felt more user-friendly or doable or trustworthy, right? I think that's a huge reason why couples get nervous. It was for us, especially for Josh as a non-Catholic convert to the faith. It's just, there's so many misconceptions. And especially somebody coming into the faith, you have this idea that Catholic families have all these kids. And then the question is, I think for somebody that doesn't understand that, the question is, well, why do they have all those kids? Nobody ever thinks that perhaps it might be a choice that they wanted to have all those kids. And so I think the stigma is that wasn't part of the plan. And so anyway, that just causes a lot of confusion. So all of that to say, I would just want any couple, and I wish that I would have done this, just keep seeking and searching, because I think you could come to the truth of your bodies and what works best for you a lot faster than you can if you just keep, plugging along with whatever method, quote unquote, seems to be working, but, is perhaps contraceptive.
Especially in today's day and age, because there's so much online.
Mm-hmm.
That you can learn virtually, so even if you don't have access to an instructor in your area that you can see in person, there's so much online education out there. And we've linked it to show notes before. So I'm just not going to do it to this one because it's just going to be a reiteration of what we've done. So go back to other episodes and look. But yeah, there's just so much out there. So I think, yeah, to encourage people to say, if you're having a hard time with the method that you're being taught, or that's, maybe you were introduced to in like a marriage prep class, or that your friend told you about and loves, but you're not really feeling it, like, well, let's try something different. There's something else out there that might work better. And then also giving the opportunity for the adjustment too. So not just throwing it out like, oh, well, then if every method doesn't happen to work for me, it's like, well, is it the method then? Like, is it the NFP, or is it me having a hard time adjusting to the lifestyle and what it necessitates? Like, because those are two different things, right? The method is good, but it's me that, is it you or is it me, type
Exactly.
of thing.
Yeah.
So being honest, I think in that regard is also important.
Yeah. And I think about, for me, it would have been probably a lot, if not, it would have been all on me to be the one to find a method. And gosh, what I wish was, because I do know how Josh responded to, for example, the Creighton model, which is what we ended up with. And we ended up with that method due to not being able to achieve. But knowing the information that's taught in that method about the body, about, the couple, just the female cycle, just all of that, it's so educational, and it's so much of it is what, we haven't been taught growing up. And so to be exposed to that in a state of life where we're trying to have babies, it makes me wonder, what would have been his response if we were in a state of, okay, we're just trying to monitor our fertility, and then to come at it at a different angle. I think about when you've talked before about the class on campus at the university that you taught, and the boys' eyes, you can just tell that things are moving and making, firing, and they're connecting with this information that they've never been told before. And there's just so much beauty and appreciation for what the body is supposed to do. And I feel like, but yeah, if every couple had that exposure and that education to the, magnanimity of the female body and what it does, it's hard to walk away from that once you know it. And I just think that that's, when you understand the depth and the beauty, that draws both of the male and the female in towards, that desire to let your body do what it's meant to do.
Because in our bodies, you can see that we're made for each other,
Mm-hmm.
that we don't make sense alone, really. I mean, I was explaining this to somebody this past weekend, or we were talking about it. I wasn't explaining it like I know everything about it, but we were just discussing this, where, this is how we say the family is the closest image we have to the Trinity on this side of heaven, right? Because the love of the Father and the love of the Son together united brings forth the love of the Holy Spirit. And they're individually all three fully God. So they're all fully complete in themselves, and then complete all in one together, right? The three in one. And then you look at a family, right? Like you're all individuals, all complete persons, right? Like the whole, like, you complete me.
Right.
Like, not true. Like I'm fully complete by myself. But when we come together, it's like this different level of completeness, if you will, right? Like it's a fullness of completion that then brings forth new life. Like, so anyway, I think that's, that's what we see then. I mean, we don't use those words,
Right.
but when, we're in class and I see these guys light up and I see these women kind of marvel at this mystery too, of like, wow, this is, the complexity of the female body and the simplicity of the male body, and yet how we need both of them at this very specific time to come together to bring forth new life. There's, even if you don't see it through the Catholic lens, like just looking at it and like wondering about it, like, wow, this is so interesting that like there's a fertile window, and men are always fertile, and what does that mean about relationships, and like what does that mean about being male, about being female, and women carry the baby, like the baby grows inside of a woman. Men don't do that. Like, what does that mean about men and about women? And they're different, does that mean they have different roles because of that? Then?
Right.
Like all of these questions that I think would just be fun to talk about.
I agree. I so
we
agree.
just don't. We don't encourage wonderment in that. In fact, it's sad. There's actually a very like given prescription of like, well, no, you don't talk about like, here's what that means. That means, well, I don't, that we're just going to erase that actually, that there's any difference, that there's different things going on here. And well, even if we see that, we're still the same people, we can still do the same things. It's like, well, sure. Can we both like pick up a bag? Like, yes, we can do that same thing. Like, can we both do dishes? Yes, we can both do that. Like, but you can't grow a human being like I can grow a human being, right? Like I'm not always fertile. Like you're always fertile. Like we are different,
Right.
And that's that's another hard thing, right? About relationships, about marriage, about NFP is we're different. We are coming together to be united, and yet we're very different. And we are sinful and prideful. And like just there's so many aspects of that I think can be hard too.
Absolutely. I think, and another hard part about all of that is, discussing that with your kids. And some people can have a really hard time with that. And, you want to create that wonder, because I know we've talked about this, and I know a fair majority of people would agree. You're not taught any of this. And like you said, whatever you are taught is just this is what it is, and not left to ask questions. And so
right. To be curious,
because
curious in a healthy way.
Yes.
Because there's unhealthy sexual curiosity, which is like you have this desire, you just go with whatever the desire leads you to do. Like that's not what we're encouraging here. No, we're encouraging before that. We're encouraging why do you have the desire?
Right.
Not you have the desire, oh, just go play around with it. No, we're asking the before question of why do you have that desire?
Right.
What is that desire for? If it was given to you by God, what is that for?
Yeah. I mean, how much more would the life of a woman or man, so a teen, for example, how much different would the life of that person be if they knew the truth at such a young age, Right. And we have, we've talked about that. Like there are statistics to show that the more you know about your body and what you are created for, that increases chastity. And so I wouldn't want a parent to ever be scared. I get that there's appropriate times and, you want to make sure age, what, like all that stuff. I get that there's a lot of components, but I wouldn't ever want somebody to be scared to talk about the truth, because it's so empowering to know what your body should be doing.
So this is so funny. You made me think of the boys. So we, they're 3. And so they'll sometimes, depending on what our day looks like, right? Like sometimes at the end of the day, they just get in the shower with me. Quick. Usually they'll shower with Joey, but sometimes they'll shower with me still. So anyway, we're in the shower and, they're aware of their penis, right? And
Absolutely.
So we'll talk about washing our body in the shower and we'll say, okay, we wash our penis, we wash our butt, we wash our arms, our legs, our head, etc. Talk about all the body parts. So sometimes they've done this a couple times and it's so much funnier for Joey and I because we're aware of like the cultural craziness that's going on and they have no idea. So they just think they know it's so silly what they're saying. And we just look at Joey and I are just like, there are actually people who think that is possible. Anyway, which is sad. I shouldn't be laughing. It's sad. But anyway, they'll say to me, so we're in the shower, and they're washing their body and, they'll say, what do they say? They say, oh, mommy, you have a penis? I say, no, mommy does not have a penis. She's a girl. They say, and Samson turned to me one day, or Blaze turned to me and he said, mommy, one day you have a penis. One day. Like to console me.
Right, exactly. Like, I'm sorry, mommy. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, like I'm the only one in our family without a penis, right? Because like all boys except for me. But it was like as if it was like almost like a way to do it without actually doing it. Like he'd put his hand on my shoulder and say, one day, mommy, one day you'll have a penis. Like you'll join the club one day.
Right. I'm so sorry,
I just
Mommy.
started laughing so hard. I said, no, Blaze. I said, Mommy, Mommy won't have a penis, But then they've said it since then. So sometimes we'll just joke and I'll be like, maybe, Blaze, maybe Mommy will be so lucky, to be a boy like you. Like, that's just so cool that you're a boy, So anyway, but I remember the first time they saw like me, my naked body,
right,
and like notice the difference, like, oh, that's different, like you
right,
don't look like me and you
right.
don't look like daddy, and it's this very perplexing, like they think it's funny. It's like, this is so funny. So anyway, I think that sense, that innocence, right?
Yes,
Like that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like
yes.
sparking that curiosity, like those conversations, like these are conversations I look forward to
Me
having,
too.
in fact, even right, like,
Me
which is
too.
sad. My kids are going to be like they're not going to want to have the conversations.
Same,
Ironically enough,
same.
I want to have the
Yes.
conversations. So even when Max will ask little questions now, I'm like, well, Max, and I want to go in like that big elaborate thing, and he's just like, all right, Mom, thanks. Like that was too much,
Yes,
Obviously,
I
not like
do.
nothing inappropriate, just deep. I go
Right,
too deep.
right.
That's my battle. I have to like fight off the going too deep. There's a great book. I'll link this in the show notes. There's a great book. It's with the pop checks. I think I've shared it with you, Emily. The Birds and the Bees.
Yes, I know a lot of
It's
couples that like
beautiful.
that.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. It's very much a theology of the body approach. Just beautiful. Give a lot of great tips, like for different ages too. Like as your child's getting older, like things you can bring up and talk about. But anyway, I digress, Emily. But what were you talking about with it being hard, just talking to your kids about
I
it?
think
And that
some
can be
people,
challenging.
I think some couples, are intimidated to think about
Right.
because maybe they don't really know all of it either, or don't know
Right.
how to take the approach. And so then
Or they haven't been doing it their whole life and so feel a
exactly.
sense of insecurity. I think that's one of the big obstacles, right?
Yes.
It's like you don't have to be a pro at it. You don't have to have had been perfect. In fact, your kids never have to even know it. You can just start teaching the truth. Like you don't have to give the
Exactly.
rundown. Maybe when they get older, if they asked and you feel comfortable and you want to share your past, you can. But
Exactly.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, that's my personal business. So if I decide to share that with my children, if I find it appropriate and helpful to the situation, I will. But they don't have to know.
Right.
And I don't think that's being dishonest.
And I
That's
think
just presenting the
I
truth.
think it's freeing, right? Like
For sure.
you know what? No. They don't have to. They need to know what they need to know, which is truth. And yeah, maybe that can be freeing for some women and couples to just know, like, don't worry about whatever you did because everyone has a story. And
Right. Don't lead with that. Just lead with the truth. Like just
exactly.
lead with the truth.
And
Yeah.
very factually but loving, right? Like
Right.
they don't need a lot of fluff, and kids just be direct, and when I say kids, I'm not talking about a 5-year-old, obviously, but you want them to hear it from you. You really do.
Right. Right. Well, and I remember this, and the witness of parents, though, striving to live this out in their marriage. I think that, you can't underestimate the power of that. That's incredibly powerful. There's a couple I know, well, it's like a friend of ours, their parents, they have 6 kids, but they have them in chunks of 3. They have 2 groups of 3 because they were using, I believe this is what I was told. This is the story, is that for the first 3, they were not practicing, chastity in their marriage to the fullest extent that they could. And then they had a conversion, learned church teaching, and then decided to use NFP and felt called to have more kids. So I think there's a pretty significant gap. Like the first 3 all older, married, have kids, and then the bottom 3 I think are now teenagers.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and they have a really cool story. I've never actually heard it from them because they're like the parents of my friends, but yeah, I've met them and they are like, very wonderful people. So I just think, but it stuck with all the kids. Like they're like, wow, mom and dad like took this seriously, and we see it like now we have 3 new siblings. And there's a pretty significant age gap. Like, how did that happen?
Isn't that so
Why
beautiful?
did that happen?
It's so beautiful.
So yeah, just to see, because that's what inspires us all to faith, right? Is our greatest cross we all share is to not trust God.
Right.
To think that God is against us, we can't trust him. And when we see, that's inspiring to me. When I see people trust God and act in faith, like, gosh, that just helps me in my faith, gives me a little more oomph to keep going. So yeah, it's,
Absolutely.
I think, and when it's within your family, that can be, when it's your parents, that's really powerful and inspiring. So it's never too late, even you just learning it. And then that's the other reason, one other thing about the young people is I really enjoy doing, and you and I have done it together, Emily, like the Mystical Rose class,
Yes.
the class for young girls, where we have it's a mother-daughter type setup, because with the idea of evangelizing for moms as well. So I just did one a couple months ago now, at a parish out here. And it was great. And, like with most of the classes, I feel like you never know, like at the end of the class, like, okay, did anyone get anything from
Right.
that? I don't know. It's not always the most like engaging back and forth audience sometimes, because we're talking about issues that maybe are uncomfortable, or yet people don't feel very confident about, or this teen girl was dragged here by their mom, so they might not be in the best of spirits.
Right.
Anyway, but after, like always, afterwards, all these moms would come up to me like over the course of the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much for doing that. Like, it opened up conversation between my daughter and I. And I was like, I said, that's why I do it, because I think it's so helpful. Like, you can kind of just put it on me, like take the
Yes.
burden off of you guys.
Yes.
I give you a lot of information. I give you a lot of resources. So then I can be your conversation starter.
Yes.
So if mom, you need to break the ice to talk to her about something, you can revert back to me. Do you remember, Isabella, when Amy was talking about this, what did you think about that? Or, I found this book that she had talked about. Would you be interested in reading that? Or like, but always having it be an outside person to kind of put the blame on, and vice versa for the girl, right? Like, mom, you remember Amy was talking about this? Like, I'm starting to see this in my underwear, whatever it is, Emily, like that can be so freeing.
Yes.
I think that's one of those things I love about that format, where it's like you both come together and it just helps kind of break the ice. And that's what it did. And I'm so grateful, because that was kind of the main point.
Yes. There's so much I feel like that doesn't get said in that class, but I am so confident that the fruits and the graces from the class just continue to,
Right.
to unfold, because
Right.
it really does. Yeah. It's so specific to them, and it's so engaging, but like you said, it a lot of times doesn't feel like there's a lot of back and forth, and that's okay. Like
Right.
that, it really,
Right.
you have to be okay with the silence, because it's
Yeah.
really, there's so much more going on that will go on from that.
And not seeing the outcome,
Right.
like just being content with kind of sprinkling of seed.
Yep.
And then letting go. That has been one of my biggest conversions over the last, whatever, how many years of doing stuff like this, because I'm so outcome oriented. I love to complete a task, see the completion of it, and then move on. Like, that's how I feel like gratification.
Yeah.
And then doing stuff like this, quote unquote, like any type of ministry work, you just don't. Like, it is totally like an act of, okay, Lord, like, I'm just going to try. Like, what is the Mother Teresa quote? God calls me to be faithful, not to be successful.
Yeah. So
like, yeah, to just do the next right thing and keep moving on. You know what I mean?
yes.
So,
yeah.
Okay. For the sake of time, Emily, what was some other hard things? Did you have anything else in your notes?
Those were my main things, that after
Okay.
we wrapped up last time, I was just like, you know what? Because when we were talking last time, I had just kind of stumped myself, like, what did I do? I don't remember, and it really is not what I did or didn't do. It's what I wish I would have done. And so,
Right.
So yeah, just keep seeking, just keep searching. Everybody's journey is different, but don't give up
Right.
on the truth.
Yeah. That would be I think my biggest thing too would be, what would make this less hard? That's maybe a good place to end. What would make this less hard is learning your body as early as possible. Like,
Agree.
men learning about reproductive cycles, men learning about women and learning about themselves, women learning about yourself and learning about men, like learning the basics of how the bodies work, understanding theology of the body. God made you male, made you female. What does that mean? What is the goodness of that? What is the struggle of that in the fallen world, right? What are our inclinations to sin? Just doing, I think that would be the best thing, is like getting started as early as possible.
I completely
and
agree.
taking dating seriously.
Yes.
Like, have fun when you go on dates and have conversations. Like, you are interviewing your future spouse and the future parents of your children, like taking that very seriously, because your children deserve that you take that seriously too.
Yes.
Like, okay, mom, what were you doing with this guy before you had us? Right? Like, did you know he was going to be a crappy dad? Like, you know, were you asking these questions? Like, what was happening? And vice versa, right? Like, so I think just taking that seriously is also a way to make this less hard. I mean, that was, yeah, I've already shared that in my story, but that was by far like just such a nice thing of like, all right, Joey and I were just like, so how do you feel about churches? I mean, it's this one question, Emily. It's this one question. And I haven't been on the Catholic dating sites, but I hear this is part of like one of the things in the Catholic dating sites. It's, you know, what's your stance? Which is funny that we have a stance, but anyway, what is your position, or what do you believe what the church teaches on birth control and contraception? And the answer is like, yes, I do. I don't believe we should use birth control. You don't believe you should birth control? Okay, great. That takes like 80% of like the conversations we need to have pretty much off the table.
That's
it's like,
so
okay, so
true. That's
you know,
so
Emily,
true. That leads into so many other, facets of the importance of marriage topics for sure.
Right. Because I feel like if you're on the same page, well, then what does that mean? If you're on the same page with that, then you believe that chastity is a virtue you're living out in marriage, which entails that there will be abstinence in marriage. So you don't believe that sex is a free-for-all in marriage. Okay, that's also huge.
Right.
Like, you don't believe we can be using each other. Like, like you're just on the same page with so many things. So I feel like that is like the peak, the number one question. Ask that first.
It really is.
And if the answer is aligned, if you guys are aligned, you know, then you can move forward.
That is
then proceed. Like,
great recommendation.
Proceed to the next question.
Yes!
You know, like
the next topic. Yeah.
Exactly. It's okay. This is pretty solid, and then kind of move on from there.
That's
but
great.
I feel like that is the big one. So, okay,
very good.
I think that's it.
Yes.
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Emily. I will. We'll see you guys in the next episode. We've got some great interviews coming. If you haven't checked out Dr. Mike Manhart, we interviewed him from the Couple to Couple League. He was fantastic and he's a great personal story, a lot of knowledge, right? He was so much fun.
He was so interesting. And all the stuff they're doing with symptothermal is very interesting.
Yeah, the Couple to Couple League is great. They have a ton of resources. So I tried to link all those in that show notes. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go check that out. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Sounds good.
Bye, Emily.
Bye, Amy.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.